Podcast Network Asia.
What's going on? This is Xavier Woods, a.k.a. Austin Creed.
I said give me a hell yeah!
Hey, this is Veda Zay.
Hello, WWE Universe in the Philippines. This is Charlotte.
Talent is not sexually transmitted.
You need to go back to the drawing board because your game absolutely sucks!
Hey everyone, this is Jeff Cobb.
I'm Lewis Howley. I'm Sam Spoker. We are Pretty Deadly. Yes, boy. Yes, boy.
Hello, my name is Ilya Dragunov, the Czar, the NXT UK champion, and you're listening to the Wrestling Podcast.
You are watching and listening to the longest-running weekly episodic Filipino wrestling podcast. This is the Wrestling Podcast. Stan C, Ro Moran, and Chino Liao on another weekly Thursday live stream. Wala pa rin yung dabarkads niyong si Rowan ASH because he's still on academic leave. But we have a lot to talk about, and as Ro said kanina nung pre-show, meron mga humabol. So may mga kailangan talaga tayong pag-usapan na bali-balita that happened outside the ring. But before that, we hope everybody's having a great Thursday. Hope that nobody's really stuck in traffic while listening to us. If you are, thank you so much. And thank you for supporting the podcast and leaving us that 5-star rating, subscribing to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love what we do, if you want to support the Wrestling Podcast outside of hanging out during our live streams, you can do that by being part of our growing Wrestling Podcast patron community.
Right, guys. Extreme Rules is happening this Sunday, Manila time. Rowan will be the one in charge of the stream. Will not be available. But if you want to be a part of that, all you got to do is subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Wrestling Podcast. Wala yung ticker sa baba. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm used to it being there, but it's not.
Oh,
there it is.
There it is.
Patreon.com/Wrestling Podcast. As low as $5 or whatever that is now in pesos. I suggest you subscribe now before it gets any worse.
Guys, aabot yan ng 70. Maniwala kayo sa akin.
God, I hope not.
I hope not.
Aabot yan ng 70. Mag-subscribe na kayo ngayon pa lang. Ang dami na nag-aalisan sa gobyerno. Tayo na aabot yan ng 70.
Yeah, you get access to our Discord community where we talk about wrestling, sports, fashion, TV and movies, video games, music, a whole bunch of different things, exclusive review content of the TV shows, Raw, Smackdown, NXT, Dynamite, Rampage, pay-per-views, MWF, whatever have you. And also our merch. Let's put up the merch. Babyface producer Mike. We're in the process of finally sending out yung tees that our patrons availed. Because if you're a patron, you get dibs on one of these 4 shirts in various colorways, not just the colorways you see here. That's the perk of being a patron. You also get access to our pasabay. So we do them from online stores like the WWE Shop, Shop AEW, and Pro Wrestling Tees and other stores as well. We're about to do one maybe for Black Friday next month. While hindi pa malala, hindi pa ganun kalala ang palitan ng peso at dollar. Again, patreon.com/Wrestling Podcast for as low as $5.
All right, let's start with some news outside the ring. Some very sad news that we woke up to over the weekend. WWE Hall of Famer and New Japan founder Antonio Inoki has passed away. He died at the age of 79 due to a rare disease. And honestly, I'm way too young to have really seen him in his prime. Pero syempre, nabasa na natin yung mga articles, the eulogies, and even if you watch a documentary like, say, Dark Side of the Ring, yung episode on WCW being in North Korea, you can really see the impact that Antonio Inoki had, not just on wrestling, not just on sports, but even in politics, to the point that he was a part of Japan's government. He was trying to broker deals with the North Korean government. He was a very influential person talaga. So, Antonio Inoki's passing, very sad, especially as New Japan celebrates its 50th anniversary. They weren't able to induct him with, I believe the title was honorary chairman. They just
lifetime chairman.
Honorary lifetime chairman. Thank you, Ro. Really unfortunate na hindi yun nagawa ng New Japan for Antonio Inoki.
Yeah, it's pretty sad that he passed away. Antonio Inoki is a legend not just in Japanese wrestling, but in Japan in general. Lumalabas yung videos niya na sinasampal niya yung mga fans. The long line of fans that just want to get slapped by Antonio Inoki kasi it's such an honor for them to get slapped by this legend. And so, ganun kalaki yung respeto ng Japanese people for somebody like Antonio Inoki, who not just made an impact in the world of wrestling, but also in the society that he was a part of. And diba, lahat naman tayo as wrestling fans, as wrestling professionals, yun naman din yung dream talaga. So, Godspeed Antonio Inoki and the Great Rainbow Road, as they say.
Yeah, and so Stan brought up the fact that we were all too young to have seen Inoki in his prime. Pero even though that may be the case, we see influences of Inoki everywhere in a lot of the wrestling that we see right now, a lot of the wrestlers that we see right now. Hindi lahat kasi syempre people were still brought up on the American Western style, right? The Major League style of the WWE and WCW. Pero a whole bunch of wrestlers nowadays are inspired by Inoki and the strong style he created, not just in the WWE, not just abroad, but also here. So he literally changed the game and changed the way we work to a fault even. Pero syempre, it's all in good fun because he did want wrestling to be perceived as a competitive sport. Syempre, we all know it's worked, pero that doesn't mean it got to be soft, right? So you have guys like Shinsuke Nakamura, Katsuyori Shibata, almost everyone in New Japan right now is a disciple of the strong style philosophy. So we're seeing these effects, and we will continue to see these effects, these influences, well past our lifetime. So Inoki is a real legend in that regard. You don't have to have seen him to know his effect. So rest in peace, Inoki-san. Everyone wrestling will keep the fighting spirit burning alive.
If you want to catch up on yung history ni Antonio Inoki, the legacy he's left behind, you can check it out on theringer.com. They have this really long eulogy written by Oliver Lee Bateman and Ian Douglas. It's on their fight section. So go check that out. Sobrang comprehensive talaga. It really goes into his entire career. So it provides you a very colorful snapshot of the life and legacy that Inoki-san led. All right, from that somber piece of news, let's transition to this one na bumulabog sa atin over the last couple of days, and that is the beef between Andrade El Idolo and Sammy Guevara. So we were all expecting to catch Andrade El Idolo in the ring on this week's Dynamite. Sakto, 3rd anniversary pa naman dapat ng Dynamite today. He was supposed to face Preston Vance of the Dark Order.
I was supposed to be on Rampage.
On Rampage. Yeah, so that's not happening anymore. It was reported na Andrade was sent home. Now, there are additional reports coming from the Wrestling Observer newsletter na nagsasabi na Sammy Guevara did not throw any punches, reportedly. And Andrade reportedly punched and Sammy did not fight back. And it was immediately broken up. So, sabi ni na Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez na they had multiple sources that corroborated it, na Andrade raw got 2 punches in the hallway before being broken up, na winarningan na raw si Andrade na wag kang gagawa ng gulo. There's conjecture that Andrade is doing this because he wants to get fired. So, di natin alam yun. He hasn't really said anything about that. But apparently, this beef goes back a little bit more further because Andrade did an interview recently in Spanish where he was alluding to the beef with Sammy Guevara because he says na si Sammy raw may problema whenever Andrade works stiff. So what do you make of all of this, Ro, as the wrestler of the bunch?
First things first, hindi conjecture yung Andrade wanting to get fired. He literally said this on Twitter the other day that he doesn't care if he gets fired from AEW. So he is that is a man looking to get fired, looking to reunite and rehook up with his wife back in WWE. So it's straight from the horse's mouth that he wants to get fired. And I don't condone this one bit because we are not pro backstage bardagulan here in the Wrestling podcast. But you gotta respect his balls and his and his moxie for actually admitting that that he wants to get fired and not giving a fuck. The difference is that I think Eddie Kingston doesn't want to get fired, but Andrade does. I don't know if we should pile up on Sammy Guevara here kasi he didn't really do anything. Like he didn't bring it up in public. It was really Andrade who fired the first shots. He kept it private backstage, which he should. Sammy did. And Andrade was the one who brought it out in the open. So it's all on him then. And even though Sammy is like an easily hateable person right now in the wrestling business, I think he is absolved of all blame for this one.
I mean, all I can really say about this is Tony Khan needs to get control of his locker room quick. Like, as the leader and the head of upper management, he needs to, I don't know, hire an HR team, hire Tony Robbins to do a team building exercise, do a trust fall in Pansol. Do something, man. Get this shit under control. Kasi ilang linggo na nangyayari itong putang ng away na to. CM Punk, the Young Bucks, who are supposed to be EVPs, by the way, supposed to be upper management. And now Andrade and Sammy Guevara, parang ang gulo eh. Diba? What is happening backstage? Diba? I think somebody said it in the comments na yung WWE, sobrang chummy nila kasi kumakain lang sila ng one-shot challenge. Tapos yun yung pinaka-intense na nangyari. Yun yung content nila. Nagsasapakan sila eh. How is that a healthy work environment? Can somebody answer that? Like, how is that healthy for the wrestlers, for the people who are just trying to do their jobs? Diba? Hindi talaga siya conducive to a healthy working environment. So, I don't know, man. TK, every week that goes by, I mean, they're going to go negative things about AEW. Nawawalan ako ng respect kay Tony Khan.
Yeah.
Just to go back to Sammy Guevara here, he did fire some shots back at Andrade on Twitter. One of these tweets was from a couple of days ago where he tweeted, and I quote, "You are a jobber, a favor hire, be grateful, bitch." End quote. People were speculating who this was about, and then when all of this Andrade stuff came out, people were putting two and two together and are now assuming that this is indeed about Andrade El Idolo.
Yeah. Okay, sige. I take back what I said. He is completely absolved of all blame. Pero syempre, he was only defending himself then. It just didn't look good. It looked bad all throughout. I feel like Tony Khan needs to put a moratorium on social media activity that isn't promoting.
Kasi may point naman siya na ayaw niya i-restrict yung tao niya, wants them to be themselves. Okay, all well and good. But when it gets to a point where they start exchanging fists, he has to learn how to put his foot down. He really has some strong Kendall Roy vibes right here. He's trying to be like his dad, pero hindi niya kaya. So it's a bad look, Ray. Oh, man.
Can we highlight Martin's comment here, Chino? Maybe tell them to keep. Si Martin.
Oh, sorry.
So Martin, yeah. Martin says maybe tell them to keep away from Twitter. A whole bunch of wrestlers need to stay away from Twitter. Like a disgusting amount of wrestlers in the business absolutely need to get away from it. Especially when they are actively on a roster. It's just really a bad look. Twitter might be the worst thing to ever happen to the wrestling industry.
It's pretty much the worst thing to happen to anybody.
That's true. Yeah, it's just so bad.
I just want to add something to what Chino said kanina na, Chino sabi ba you're sick and tired of hearing about backstage drama. Ito something that I've said on the podcast before na whatever company you work for, whether you're in wrestling or outside wrestling, you are representing that company. That's an unfortunate byproduct of the social media era where everything is forever. Lahat ng sinasabi, lahat ng ginagawa natin, if it's captured online, it's there on the internet. Pag na-report yan, nandyan na yan. So whether you like it or not, you represent your company. All right? You all represent whoever you're working for. So Andrade and Sammy getting into this beef, CM Punk, the Bucks, Ace Steel, Kenny Omega getting into their beef, that all reflects on AEW, whether they like it or not. Diba? Kaya nga sinasabi ni Chino na Tony Khan needs to get his house in order, AEW needs to hire an HR expert, stuff like that. These memes are being said because it all reflects on the company. And that's something that we all have to remember, lalo na people in the wrestling business. And I've said this for years na, the first word in professional wrestling is professional. And you have to act like a professional if you want to represent your company well. Like if you want to be a top guy, you want to be the world champion, you want to represent your brand, you have to really act like you deserve to be that representative and that face of the brand. And I'm just going on another soapbox tirade here, but I just feel like it just needs to be said again.
Parang may hugot to. But
I don't know where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I don't know where he's coming from with that either. But
pero,
it makes
may point naman siya, I guess. And again, kung may pinapatamaan ka, I don't know who that is. But for me, my whole thing is, your company is only 3 years old. Tapos nakakailang away na kayo that breaks out. In the span of its third year, they have this saying na it's a thing in the startup world where startups don't really go back 2 years. AEW is technically a startup. Feeling ko mangyayari din sa kanila to. Na if they don't get things in order, if Tony Khan doesn't control the situation, whatever it is happening backstage, masasama sila dun sa statistic nila.
It's not just a matter of AEW being a startup, AEW being around for only 3 years. It's also a matter of this is the company that is trying to beat WWE, is trying to be number one someday. Kahit hindi sabihin ni Tony Khan, I know that's what his mission vision is, right? It sucks that the freewheeling approach, the laissez-faire approach to managing people is not working. So you really do got to clamp down on these things, on these behaviors. So I hope that 2 PR disasters in a month? A month, diba? It's been a month. It's been only 30 days. So has to be a wake-up call for Tony Khan. It can't just be Tony Schiavone being the head of talent relations. It's got to be someone who's not the boys, who's not from the boys. It has to be someone who has a legit background and to bring that kind of credibility to whatever disciplinary action you've got going on there. Just want to address really quickly the subplot in the chat here. Why couldn't they have muted yung fuck you Sammy chants on Dynamite today? They could actually mute it if they want to. NXT actually mutes holy shit chants, which is terrible. It comes off terribly. But just because it's live doesn't mean they can't censor the words. So I think they just don't want to because it comes off pretty terrible on the broadcast.
Or maybe because it looks grittier on TV. I don't know. I will say na just because it's live doesn't mean it's actually live. May pagitan yan na mga 30 seconds to about a minute. So, tulad na sinabi ni Ro, if they wanted to censor it out, they could. Yun lang. In closing, I guess none of us here on the podcast, and I hope none of you in the comment section want AEW to die or to fail. No, none of us want that. We want the industry to succeed, diba? So I guess this is where the criticism is coming from. Now we want things to be better. We want everyone to get their shit together, just so the industry can be more functional. You know what I mean? Be an Adam Cole in this world of people starting fights backstage.
Yeah, I mean, if people are actually part of the broadcast telling you that you have an HR problem, then you really got to fix it.
Yeah.
Like this sign over here.
All right. Time for us to take our first break. When we come back, predictions time for Extreme Rules happening this weekend. So let's hear from our other podcasts on Podcast Network Asia. Let's get to some shout outs over on Kumu.
Saying hey to J.R.E.A. Fernandez, Jeria Fernandez. I don't know how to say your name, bro, or sis. Thank you for following us on Kumu, and thank you to everyone who has tuned in so far. Keep smashing those hearts. We are at 1,500 likes. Yeah. Please keep telling everyone that you like the wrestling talk here on Kumu, and keep sending us stuff like Halo Halo and all the other stickers that you can get.
All right. Extreme Rules is happening this weekend, and you can catch it with Tagalog audio on the WWE Network on Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Manila time. May expectations ba kayo heading into Extreme Rules, like big picture stuff?
I don't know. It's weird kasi parang walang big picture stuff that I want to see change. Like, it's just stories ending, a bunch of resolutions happening, but none that really move the needle, if you will. I don't know. That's just me.
Ikaw, Chino.
I just want to see it be extreme again. And my hopes are high going into this, since all the matches have stipulation.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much, diba? So I want it to be extreme. Hindi naman sa brutal akong tao, but they calling it Extreme Rules for a reason. Also, while they're at it, throw in Bray Wyatt. Why not?
Oh, yeah. Sure. The revelation of White Rabbit, who I hope is not Joe Casey.
Yeah, so ayun, people are speculating na si Bray Wyatt, pero sinabi na rin, I think Fightful reported this a few days back, na October 8th, which is Extreme Rules, that is the reveal date for the White Rabbit. So, ayun, I think I'm at a point where decidido na rin sila si Bray Wyatt yun, and like I'm buying into it, I'm believing it na rin. So, I think anything less than a Bray Wyatt reveal would be a bit disappointing.
Or may kasalib ka dito sa Paul London theory mo.
Si Kyle Martin. All right.
Fred has an interesting. Fred has an interesting theory here. He thinks it's a stable. It's an entire stable.
I wouldn't be mad
people.
at that. As long as
I wouldn't be mad at that. Yeah. Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Kasi like I'm kind of over.
White rabbit try.
Yeah, diba? Why not?
Carrion cross. Oh,
yeah. Why not that? Yeah. I'm kind of over Bray Wyatt as a character, even though maybe he can do something that could change my perception of him. Because to be fair, Vince did kind of ruin the whole thing, and now it's not Vince, so there's a better chance of it being a lot better. So that would be great. It would be great kung stable siya, and it would be hell Ephraim. Yeah, why not? Right? Bring about Bo Dallas and finally reveal who Sister Abigail is. Whatever. Right?
Yeah, there are some people still on the main roster na wala naman atang ginagawa ngayon. People like Cedric Alexander or T-Bar or who else?
I kind of think, just to jump in here, I kind of think that Gallows being suspended might have something to do with it, since bagay din silang bearded, because they're big bearded guys, diba? And was it the last stable Bray Wyatt handled also had bearded big guys? Maybe, I don't know. I might be stretching it here.
All right, we'll see. We'll see what happens when the White Rabbit, whether that's an individual or a stable, gets revealed at Extreme Rules this Sunday. All right, let's start with predictions now. Let's go through the card. 6 matches, all of them with stipulations. And let's start off with the 6-man, good old-fashioned Donnybrook match between the Brawling Brutes and Imperium.
Is Donnybrook just another way of saying sapakan?
No, it's
yes
no
and
DQ
no.
match. It's a no DQ match.
No DQ match. Okay.
The last Donnybrook match that they had on SmackDown was a no DQ match. So if you missed that, you kind of missed. You kind of don't understand what this is.
Yeah, so there's actually an origin story sa Donnybrooks. Sheamus said na yung Donnybrook daw is derived from a public fair that was held in Donnybrook, Ireland beginning in the 1200s. And by the 1800s, nagka-reputation na yung Donnybrook Fair for being a drunken, wild event. And it was finally ended in the mid-1800s.
Yeah.
So
that's why it's a no holds barred thing.
Yeah. Sheamus really living up to the Peaky Blinders billing they're giving him. Which I love.
So who's gonna win this real authorized bardagulan?
I'm gonna side with Sheamus and his guys. Sorry, Brawling Brutes. Brawling Brutes. There we go. I'm gonna side with them because I feel like they need the momentum to be on their side so that Sheamus can challenge for the IC title. Kasi
he's already challenging on SmackDown this week.
Like, yeah, so feeling ko the end result will still be for the Brawling Brutes. He might lose on SmackDown because wrestling logic dictates that he loses on the TV show and wins on the pay-per-view and then wins the title in another big way. Para maging special yung pagiging Grand Slam champion. It's my head booking. Bigger, but still.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Sheamus isn't winning the Intercontinental Championship from Gunther. So, consuelo na lang nila na they're gonna win Donnybrook kasi it's the Irish match. How can they lose the Irish match? Diba? So,
tsaka, like, 2 of their guys outweigh 2 of the other guys.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the Great Khali never won a Punjabi prison match.
Well, that's fair.
Okay. But, if Sheamus is already losing this, the title match, then sana bigyan na rin siya ng pagkakataon.
Yeah.
Ibalik yung win niya.
I'm just excited that I'll get to call an Imperium match. I never thought that this would happen. I didn't think na mabubuo ulit sila on the main roster. So I'm really happy that we get to see this. And that Triple H's WWE has a spot for Imperium on the main roster. Really good stuff. All right, let's go to the next match. It's an I Quit match between Edge and Finn Balor.
All right. It's going to be tough to I kind of hate I quit matches because they are a lot worse, and not them worse as in bad, but worse perception wise than a submission finish. Because submission, you tap out, that's fine. But in an I quit match, you have to physically say the words I quit, then you actually are saying that you're quitting. And that kind of hurts more perception wise. So I don't want any of these guys to say I quit. Pero Edge kind of gave an out here by bringing in his family. No promo niya on Raw this week. So maybe Judgment Day is going to do something with Beth Phoenix and, I don't know, threaten them maybe to say that to get Edge to quit. Because at this point, as much as I don't want both guys to say they quit, I don't want Finn to say it even more.
Now that you said what you said, bro, it makes a lot of sense for me to also say Finn Balor might win. I'm parang feeling ko kulang na momentum si Edge, so I was originally going to go with him. But after you brought out the promo, which I forgot about, medyo malakas din yung case ni Finn Balor. So I might say Finn in this one as well.
Sabi ni Kyle Martin in the comments, Chino, if you could spotlight that from a couple of minutes ago, what if Beth Phoenix comes out and says, I quit for Edge?
No, si Kyle Martin. Oh yeah, that works too. That works too. What if Beth says it? I don't know. I don't think that's legal though. Say, the person in the match has to say that they quit.
Or what if Beth throws in the towel for Edge? That's happened in wrestling, diba?
The I quit and then I quit match?
Yeah, actually, yes. Nangyari din yun. Yeah. So they might do like a super dramatic spot. You know how Finn's been wrapping people's necks with chairs? They might do something like that. And given Edge's neck history, diba, baka some dramatic moment might happen where Beth runs out and says he quits, right? I don't know. It's not beyond the realm of possibilities. At this point, I see more ways for Edge to quit than more ways for Finn to quit. Therefore, I feel like Finn has a slight advantage.
Yun, see Kyle Martin in the comments. Jimmy Uso is the most recent example of someone who quit for someone else.
Tama. I remember that now. Yeah. Okay, then it makes sense then. So sure, why not? Yeah, Finn does need the momentum more. Janelle is right. I'm kind of getting behind Judgment Day more now, especially the more that they drop the weird supernatural leanings that Edge originally gave them. So ngayon mas Bullet Club with a different name lang sila. So I kind of like that more. I just wish
less
that
on the nose Bullet Club.
Yeah. They just really lean into it. Like they're a club of bad guys like Bullet Club was back in the day.
Yeah, sobrang okay din yung the Rhea and Dominic dynamic. I really love it. It's very self-aware. It's very internet savvy. So, yun, more of that stuff from the Judgment Day. So I don't think Finn could afford to lose din, lalo na in an I Quit match against Edge. So, yun. All right, let's move on to the next match that we're going to predict, and that is an Extreme Rules match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It is Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey, and it's the third match between the two of them. Ito yung sinasabi natin a few weeks back na medyo natural na the third match is an Extreme Rules match. And we've been saying since Clash at the Castle na Liv's title run is about to end, but surprisingly, she is still the SmackDown Women's Champion. So is Ronda going to take it from her here at Extreme Rules?
You know what? I want to say yes, but we've been wrong twice already. So it's Extreme Rules. This is like the most advantage that Liv has. So you might as well let her walk away with the win. Diba?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say Liv as well, especially considering that she's been able to one-up Ronda a few times now. So it's going to be hard for me to believe that Liv Morgan can win decisively in an Extreme Rules match. They really tried to make it work nung SmackDown, pero parang dinalampasan pa rin siya ni Ronda doon eh. So, I don't know. But I want to Liv to stay champion. So I'm going to say Liv.
All right. Admin Jackie says Liv will cheat. Not sure you can do that in an Extreme Rules match. Kaya ba?
I think the heelish thing that Liv would do here is to have no mercy. Start whacking away on Ronda, then not stop at all. Maybe that's the thing that she'll do. Kasi I think papunta na talaga sa heel. I think they're just slowly teasing it. And it works a lot better for her than the super lucky face character.
Who would have thought we would see a heel Liv Morgan less than a year after she was the hottest babyface in the women's division?
I mean, we've seen it before, so NXT, diba? Like it's such a long time ago, but I know it's happened.
Squad. Yeah,
I know it's happened. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Ano lang, sobrang bilis lang. Kasi nga, at the start of the year, diba, she was really the one na we were predicting to topple Becky Lynch and win the Raw Women's Championship. Then less than a year later, she's champion and it looks like pahil na siya. So, ang bilis lang ng pangyayari. Right, next match we're going to predict is the strap match between Drew McIntyre and Carrion Cross. Big meaty men slapping meat.
Okay. Not too big of a fan of strap matches, but I think this will work. I think because both guys are hard-hitting, this has to be Crosses to win. Kasi at this point, if you bring him in just to lose, then what gives? This is just going to be like Gladiator all over again.
Yeah, it's also his first PLE.
Oh. Ako din, Cross din ako dito because yes, Stan mentioned it. It's first PLE. Also, he needs the win to prove that he's an actual threat to Roman Reigns, which they've been teasing. They teased rather quite a few months ago. So parang kung threat talaga siya, natalo siya kay Drew, na natalo ni Roman, ano yung point nun? So I feel like Cross is to walk away with a victory here, a decisive victory at that.
What do you guys think about Carrion Cross and Bray Wyatt being linked up like Ina is suggesting in the comments?
Actually, White Rabbit talaga yun. That's why he owned the original song. I don't know, kasi kind of be redundant kasi Scarlett was also kind of the mystical person between the two of them.
Yeah.
But it also makes sense, I guess. But I don't think that Cross was brought in here to be the heater for Bray Wyatt. So parang hindi ata aligned yung gusto nila mangyari doon.
Yeah. Ako din, hindi siya. For somebody to team with Bray Wyatt would mean that somebody has to be less of a star, even less of a star, pero like have less popularity than Bray. Kasi malaki ang chance na pag si Carrion Cross yun, he can easily outshine Bray. And then they want Bray to shine. Otherwise, sayang tong push and QR codes na binigay nila sa kanya, diba? So I really feel like if they were going to use heaters, they'd probably bring somebody up from NXT kung stable nga tong White Rabbit thing.
Medyo agree ako dito kay Giancarlo who brings up na Bray and Cross are both alpha, so parang hindi bagay. I agree there.
Yeah.
One last note, Admin Jackie, not sure if you're referring to Drew and Cross. Cross is actually Latinx. He's Puerto Rican. All right, let's talk about the Smackdown Women's Championship now. It is Raw Women's Championship. It's a ladder match between Bianca Belair and Bayley. So first ever Women's Championship ladder match happening here for Bianca. It's also her first ladder match. If you look at the Bianca-Bayley feud from the last couple of years, this is actually their third match against one another. So, no surprises na diretso agad sila to a ladder match. Ito na ba? Is this when Damage Control takes all the belts?
Yeah, again, if you bring this all back just for Bayley to lose, then kind of all that's yung build up mo. And Bayley was so close to explaining her entire justification for doing the things she's doing, but Bianca cut her off. And that was the first time I got pissed at Bianca. Because I've liked Bianca this entire time, but then she stopped Bayley from explaining her tragic backstory. And I'm like, why? I was so close. So now I want Bianca. Now I want Bayley to win even more.
I don't know. Wrestling logic will say otherwise. Kasi the Raw that happened had them all three of them standing on a ladder, Damage Control. So there might be a chance here, pero realistically, tama din si Raw na Bianca needs to drop the title to Bayley. Otherwise, what's the point, right? What's the end game for Damage Control here? I could see a scenario where Damage Control loses and they just continue to be agents of chaos in the women's division. That might have some play. It might not be as strong as Damage Control all belts, but it kind of works for me.
I don't know, man. Winasak nung damage control yung mga rest back ni Bianca eh. So I totally see a scenario where Io and Dakota are like holding Bianca down as Bailey goes up the ladder and retrieves the title.
Pwede din. Because, I mean, Candice LeRae might have something to say about that. Diba, umepal this is a match ni Candice LeRae. So she might have a role to play here. I don't think it might be too quick. It might be too brief for her kasi kahap debut lang niya. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's get to the fight pit. It's Seth freaking Rollins versus Matt Riddle with Daniel Cormier as the special guest referee. Is it time for Riddle to get his win back?
No, actually done with this feud. Like the segment they did on Raw was like a weaker version of the side-by-side interview segment that they did. So at that point, isip ko na Cormier was right. Like these two were just bickering at that point, and I'm kind of over it. And I just want it to be over already. I strangely don't want Riddle to win now. Like I want Seth to win more because of how he's definitely going to take over the United States Championship scene. Pero this is the fight pit, and it was literally made for Riddle to win. So I'm guessing the eventual outcome is Riddle winning.
Yeah, isn't Riddle undefeated in the fight pit?
No, he's never won. The undefeated person in the fight pit is Timothy Thatcher.
Oh, okay. So yun pala yun. Baliktad pala yun sa isip ko. So I'm still going to side with Riddle. Even if Seth is looking good in the US Championship title picture, I'm still going to say Riddle kasi parang hindi ko alam kung may pride pa ang MMA fighter, pero I don't know if pride is the word to use here, but I don't know if it's believable for a bona fide UFC fighter to lose to a professional wrestler in an MMA fight. Granted that it is a work, pero still, diba? Parang hindi believable sa akin. So I'm gonna say Riddle.
I think they've been really careful to not brand the fight pit as a shoot fighting thing. It's just that it looks like it, but it's actually not. So it's just a structure that puts you together. It's implied na may pagka-shoot siya, pero it's nobody ever says that, okay, you have to fight MMA style here in the fight pit. So I think that's
how you win.
Yeah, that's just how they get around the expectations of this real fighter in Matt Riddle and in some respects Timothy Thatcher being beaten by a pro wrestler.
Yeah. If anything, what just gives it that, I guess, realistic vibe is how there are no pinfalls. It's just submissions or TKOs. So, yun lang talaga.
Sabi ni Ricky J, it's basically raw above ground.
Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah, Giancarlo was asking earlier if the fight pit will main event. I have a feeling it will because this is the feud that's been going on for the longest if you don't count Bailey Bianca. Plus, it's a fight pit plus Daniel Cormier. So I have a very good feeling na ito yung main event.
Yeah. Is it though? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. Like if I had to put money on any of these 6 matches, I'm probably putting money on the fight pit closing the show.
Ako din.
It didn't feel like a main event.
It's first of all, it's such a spectacle, diba? It's not a ring, it's a cage. So it doesn't take place in the middle of the arena. I would think. Kasi kailangan pa nila yung setup yun, diba? So I have a feeling that it'll be a little reminiscent of the Thunderdome era when we had those cinematic matches, diba? It might not be that much of a stretch from that kasi fight pit needs its own space, and therefore it would only make sense to do that at the very end of the show para hindi masira yung momentum ng show.
Okay, Ro and everybody else in the comment section, why don't you call your shot? What do you think is the main event, if not the fight pit?
John Marie is kind of right here. All of the matches in the absence of Roman Reigns kind of do feel like main event, where it's gonna maybe not the Donnybrook match. Even the Liv versus Ronda, I'll say it's Ronda. Ronda is still a big star. So, I don't know. My pick is the easy one in Drew versus Cross, because Drew is still the last main eventer that they had and is the current main eventer that they have. So, I feel like that's the safest bet for a main event match. On that note, though, I do want to kind of point out that this feels like a single brand pay-per-view. And in a way, Triple H is booking single brand pay-per-views without realizing it, because he has this batch of stories that'll put on a pay-per-view and then he'll save the next batch for the next pay-per-view after that. So nagsasalitan sila. And this is how we used to do it before, diba? And when Raw has a pay-per-view next, the other stories on SmackDown have no choice but to extend until the next SmackDown pay-per-view. So interesting, and also makes pay-per-views not exhausting when it comes to how many matches are on the card.
I actually like it as well because it's an easier watch for us fans, diba?
For sure.
It's not a 4-hour slot like it used to be anymore, and the stories are told better. Sana lang, if they are going to go back to the original format of Raw only, SmackDown only, they actually stick to it instead of being fickle every 6 months that, pwede na mag-halo-halo ulit, or there's a guest appearance, diba? I know it's not going to happen because we have unified titles here, but if it is going that way, then sana they really stick to it this time.
Yeah, I think Ro was just pointing out how yung style of booking right now is very, very much similar to yung single branded days. But, like you said, that's not really happening. Say hi to Ash all the way from the UK. Thanks for joining us, bud. Good morning.
What is up?
Ricky's point, sana Sabado na lagi ang pay-per-views. That is a Nick Khan move, so
you can thank him for that.
We'll be seeing more of that.
The better Khan.
What I will say is that for the rest of 2022, puro Saturday nights na yung pay-per-views. You can look up the schedule on CBS Sports. It's up there. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about AEW, and we're celebrating 25 years of the Devil's favorite demon, Kane. But first, a quick word from our other podcasts on Podcast Network Asia. Let's get to some shoutouts over on Kumu kung meron.
Yeah, saying hey to Cage Devil 09, who says, dapat iban yung Judgment Day. Iban where? From the show? From the pay-per-view? From the
match.
From the I Quit match. Yeah, that makes sense, but it's a no DQ match, so medyo walang point to ban them. Yeah. Like, if I were Edge, I would contract Ray and AJ to take out the other Judgment Day guys and find a way to get rid of Rhea, because nobody can touch Rhea.
Sobrang OP eh. All right, let's go over to AEW and talk about Saraya first. So she got physical this week, which was a surprise, but it's not like she took a lot of offense. She just took some strikes from Britt Baker, and then she hit Rebel with a super kick right after that. So, Ro, what do you think of all of this, and where's it going to lead? Because last week we were talking about how she's probably not medically cleared, and then this week she actually fought with Britt Baker.
Okay, so first, it's not just this segment. You have to take in the Britt Baker promo that happened before this segment. She said that Saraya wasn't medically cleared and that she should just go back to wherever she came from. By saying that, and then by defying this expectation in the women's match by having Saraya be physical, they're actually telling me that, okay, she's cleared. Because one, they wouldn't build clearly to Saraya versus Britt Baker if she wasn't cleared. And they're kind of just milking the intrigue now, because people are still not 100% sure if she's cleared. But the doubt that people have in their heads will lead people to keep watching the story and with whatever the match will be on the pay-per-view.
Ikaw, Chino, what do you think?
It reminds me of, remember how Edge was still uncleared, tapos he was appearing on Raw, and Seth Rollins did the whole, I'm gonna kill him moment, diba? Medyo physical din siya nun eh, but he really didn't do anything. I mean, he just laid there at the end of the day, diba? So parang,
the most Edge did before he came back was when he speared Elias in 2019.
Oh, yun, diba? Yun, exactly. Yung weak spear. So for me, this has the same physicality as that, wherein hindi pa cleared si Edge, therefore he did a half-ass spear, which is essentially what it was. For me, this has the same level as that. Kasi she didn't really, I'm not a wrestler here, but she didn't really fall, diba? Like patuan lang sila ng sapak, and then Britt Baker fell out of the ring. Right? So for me, I don't know. I'd rather see it and believe it than when it happens. Kasi until I see her in her gear, in that ring, wrestling an actual match, doon na lang ako maniniwala na cleared na siya to wrestle. Anything less than that will still have me doubting if she is indeed medically cleared. Kasi seryoso yung injury na nag-alis sa kanya from the ring. So it's not as easy for me to believe that she can be easily cleared.
when Edge did that spear in 2019, he was actually in the process of getting cleared. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that he was already okay, and then it just took a few more months for him to get back in shape and back in ring conditioning. So at that point, okay na siya. So
from the documentary, shortly after his return, nauna yung spear, and then he started the process of getting cleared. Kasi he felt good right after that segment with Elias.
All right. Okay.
Yun, I just want to point out how Chino is the resident doubting Thomas of the podcast. It's just really funny because you said it in exactly the same way that a doubting Thomas would. So I'm not shitting on you, because I actually am in the same boat na until I see Paige in her gear. Saka lang din ako talaga maniniwala na, okay, she's here to wrestle for real. So
I don't think Tony Khan is gonna waste all this time and money for for nothing, for a nothing burger. So I think there is something here that they're not telling us. I think it is part of the mystery machine, and it's only a matter of time. Because why build up? Why get physical with Britt Baker at all if you're not going to do anything? Diba?
Why let CM Punk go loose on the mic?
Huh? What does that have to do with this? How is that the same thing?
Who knows what Tony Khan is thinking at this point is what I'm trying to say. Feeling ko kasi nasa state of mind siya, thinking, oh, maganda to. Maganda yan. Sige, pagsamahin natin. Okay na yan. But there's no actual logic behind it. So, when anything TK says or does right now, I really am going to doubt. Kasi, nauubos na yung credibility niya sa akin. Not that he has to anything to prove to me. Who am I, right? I just do this podcast about wrestling. Pero, as a fan, it's really hard for me to side with Tony Khan, the man who said that he was going to change the face of wrestling.
Okay.
Speaking of Tony Khan, question here from Kyle. Do you think na TK will let Billy Gunn appear sa DX reunion on Raw next week?
He let Jericho do the Stone Cold podcast. So who knows, right? Anything can happen.
Yeah. Mali. Do you think? Yeah.
No, but tama rin itong sinabi ni Giancarlo. WWE should expect like the Scissor Me Daddy chance if Billy Gunn does show up. So I actually don't think it will happen kasi Billy Gunn is part of an active AEW act that is pretty over.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of not Tony Khan letting. I don't think it's a matter of Tony Khan letting Billy Gunn go over. I think it's a matter of Triple H getting Billy Gunn for the show. So for the reason that you mentioned, diba? For the Scissor Me Daddy reason that you mentioned. But I think since Tony Khan has also kind of proven that he is willing to work with WWE when they ask him. So if they ask, I don't think he would have said no.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about MJF naman. Earlier on Dynamite, he faced Wheeler Yuta, and then it seems like they're teasing a face turn here because MJF got pretty mad when Stokely and Lee Moriarty got in and tried to put a beat down on Yuta post-match. So, will you buy a babyface MJF, Ro?
Yeah, magaling naman siya umacting. Like he's a good enough actor that people buy his heel shtick, diba? He doesn't break character ever in public. So people already want to accept him as a face. They just need to be given a real storyline reason to do that. Like they're already been cheering his work. They think he's phenomenal in what he does. So I thought that it was kind of refreshing. And it's just the only bad part for me about it is that he did this after he just really literally introduced the firm as his lackeys, as his chowariwaps. So either this is a last minute decision from cokehead Tony Khan or I don't know. It's just really bad writing.
Yeah. Tony Khan to me is like that Charlie Day meme. It's always sunny. Yung nakatapat siya sa chalkboard. He's all like, poor guy. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway. I don't know, just because he's such a detestable character. Diba? They might have teased it. Again, doubting Thomas. They might have teased it. Pero hindi, I would much rather see him cash in that chip as a heel, especially since he has to go up against a charismatic babyface like John Mox. Diba? Kasi mas believable sa akin yung dynamic na yun kay MJF because he spent his entire career in AEW being pretty much an asshole. So I much rather see him do that. if he does turn face, I don't know. I don't know if it can stand with.
Yeah, people in the comments are saying that it's also hard. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow. Dependes a storyline. So Leo here forecasting that if MJF were to turn face, he'd be like The Rock.
Who was not really a face. He was just, he was just getting cheers and fighting heels. Which makes sense, I guess. Maybe that's the limitation of face MJF. Maybe that's hanggang dun lang talaga siya. But, who knows?
Yeah, because if you look back at The Rock, especially in his prime as a top babyface, he was really saying a lot of politically incorrect stuff. He was slut-shaming people about
He was
not really
popular,
babyfacey things.
He was also popular in the 90s when that was on vogue.
Yeah.
And iba na yung ideal of face ngayon eh.
Di mo pwedeng sabihin na hindi siya face noon. Like, it was just bad, but it was the product of the time.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's going to do it for the AEW talk for this week. Let's go to TBT and let's celebrate 25 years of Kane. So WWE has celebrated Kane's 25th anniversary of his debut when he first came out ng Bad Blood, diba? During the Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. And you guys know how we do this on the podcast. Drop your favorite Kane moments, Kane matches. Drop all of that in the comment section as we celebrate the Big Red Monster. For me, all I really loved about Kane, or yung pinaka-love ko about the Kane character was the Slow Chemical theme song from the early 2000s. Like, this was the time when almost everyone was coming out to a rock anthem that was played by an actual band. So it was Finger 11 who performed that theme, and that song was always on my iPod, on my MP3 player to like get me hyped. And I just love the feeling of the song coming and then yung music cue for Kane to do the thing with the fiery ring posts. That was like the thing that put Kane's presentation over the top for me. So, that's my favorite thing about Kane. Kayo?
Ro, you wanted to go ahead?
No, I just want to say, Glenn Jacobs, the politician, is a shit person. Is a terrible, terrible person who should not be idolized in any way. But Kane was the first wrestler that I found really cool. Like, remember, I started playing the games first, and I saw Kane. He was so cool. Like, this was a monster with a cool mask, and I remember it just being so awesome. And nakaka-capture siya ng imagination kasi he was like straight out of a comic book, and that was pretty cool to me. And I just had a nice, fond appreciation of Kane over the years because I thought that he was the best big man that WWE had at the time when a lot of the big men were slow and plodding. He was relatively more agile than the rest. And I thought that he deserved a lot more, but he was also pretty generous with his with the way that they wanted him to be booked. Like, he never really wanted a big championship reign, so he always gave it to someone else. That's why he was always going to stand in the shadow of The Undertaker, who is not his real brother, by the way. Baka lang may...
sa TikTok.
But Kane, the wrestler, is super awesome.
He's not his shoot brother.
Yeah.
He is his work brother.
Yeah. Let's go ask Rowan about that. I super appreciated Kane, the wrestler, and was super disappointed to find out the personality of Kane, Glenn Jacobs, the politician.
I just want to, I'm going to stand in my own little soapbox here and say that it's okay to separate the art from the artist type time. I can acknowledge na masamang tao si Glenn Jacobs while also at the same time respecting his work as Kane. Diba? Kasi I like Kane as much as well. Kasi I remember him debuting during Hell in the Cell. I remember the build-up to that moment when Paul Bearer was doing those interviews about how he had an affair with Undertaker's mom. Si Kane yung result. Right? And I remember all that at those interviews, those Attitude Era kit ka, and you're watching that and you're believing this teleserye levels of storytelling na alam mong sobrang babaw pero sobrang paniwala ka. Because there are demons involved and the undead, and you think Kane was gonna really come out, burn the lives. Iisip mo, ano kaya itsura ni Kane what does being burned alive look like? Certainly, it does not look like red latex, which is what he came out to over most of his career. But I really love that whole build-up to Kane, diba? And yeah, okay, disappointing na Glenn Jacobs is a Republican and a Libertarian and all that. Pero I really love Kane as a wrestler because of his versatility. Not just his physical versatility na high fly siya, but his storytelling versatility, shall we say. Because he's been able to be a horror character. He had his own movie to a certain point. And then he also got to do a lot of the comedy. Diba? With Team Hell No. He also got to do a lot of the dark stuff with Lita and Katie Vick and all that. Diba? So to me, Kane was just a great team player in that sense. Na kaya niyang punuan lahat ng roles na kailangan nila. And that's why it's worth appreciating.
Chino, I just got to say that of all the Kane moments, his long-ass career and all that, you had to go and mention Katie Vick.
Kasama yun eh. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
I don't think you can separate him from Katie Vick. But although he was kind of a yes man there to a fault. I agree with what Chino said. No, Kane is he may be a terrible politician, but he is a prime example of what a pro wrestler should be. Like, you shouldn't be a super self-mark about your character to the point where you can't evolve and do something else, right? Especially if it means getting even more over, you know. Sometimes may lugar yun, pero if you can adjust and work yourself into something that might have been different but totally works as well, then it's a hallmark of how great you are as a worker, as a wrestler. So I really like that about Kane. And I like that his character just underwent through so many transformations over the years. So that's pretty cool. And that's the kind of wrestler everyone should aspire to be.
Eto, last question for you guys and for the people in the chat. Ano mas gusto yung Kane, masked or unmasked?
I'm partial to masked Kane. Pero syempre, what he did when he was unmasked was also remarkable as well.
Yeah. Kane setting JR on fire, still one of the more horrific things I've seen in wrestling. Like, I remember getting nightmares from that. Yun, at saka yung inupakan niya kunyari yung fan, diba, when he was unhinged. Talagang na-embrace niya yung nakakatakot talaga siya eh. He's not scary in that supernatural sense, but also in that physical sense, because he's right there and you can see him and you can touch him and he can touch you right back. Yun tong ka talaga natakot eh. Or ako, natakot.
Gian brought up Kane and Lita. I think that was the one thing I didn't really like about, the booking they gave Kane. He said, why does Kane have to have a wife?
Fall in
yes,
love.
a monster has feelings too, but let him be a monster. Like, I don't know. That was siguro kasi that was a point where I was still all in on the Monster Kane, and then the Monster Kane went soft on
yeah, the monster became a good guy because that was his face turn, diba? When Snitsky came out and the whole "it wasn't my fault" thing happened. I was like, what? Whoa, what's happening here? And you guys have to understand, if you're new to the podcast, Ro and I both came into the fandom at around the same time, Ruthless Aggression era. So up to that point, we were just exposed to Masked Kane wreaking havoc on everybody.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. That's going to do it for TBT. Thank you so much for celebrating 25 years of Kane with us. As we get to our picks of the week, you guys know how we do it here on the podcast, so leave it in the chat. I'm going to start with mine, and it's the main event from this week's NXT. It's the Brawling Brutes versus Pretty Deadly for the NXT Tag Team Championship. Surprise, surprise, the Brawling Brutes appeared on Smackdown. Good rin to have the guys from Imperium come out and cost the Brawling Brutes the match. But it was really good to have all of these guys, all of whom came from NXT UK, really being main eventers for NXT. And, I love it when Pretty Deadly is in there. So, Matt, again, pick of the week material.
I have a pick.
Kayo,
Chino. Go ahead.
Okay, my pick of the week is from Raw. Again, surprising that we get picked from Raw nowadays. But Bobby Lashley versus Mustafa Ali for the United States Championship. I always got to pick anything that has my guy Ali on it. So that was a nice showing for him. Syempre, we knew he wasn't going to win, but it was a nice way to reintroduce him after a while gone from TV.
My pick, thanks to Julian, goes out to Up Up Down Down and Xavier Woods and Liv Morgan doing the one chip challenge. Go watch that and see what a harmonious locker room looks like. Yung tipong kaya nila mag-challenge and they're just like chilling. Solo Sikoa is on that exercise bike. You know, they're doing like nice wrestling things instead of fighting like assholes. Go watch that. It's great. It's great stuff. Sobrang feel good.
All right, let's go through the picks from the comments. Glendale picks the Stardom 5-star Grand Prix, Julia versus Suzu Suzuki, and Maika versus Himeka. Kyle picks the memeable promo between Seth and Riddle. Alan also picks the Julia match, very emotional. Julian picks Lashley versus Ali, the Mox and Hangman segment, and National Scissoring Day, which was a lot of fun, I will admit. Janelle picks Sami Zayn, Riddle and Rollins, GJ and JC versus Zoe and Nikita. Giancarlo picks Chad Gable's German suplex on Braun. Yeah, nakakagulat yun na he was able to pull that off. Fred...
Shades of Neville during his NXT run.
Fred picks the Brawling Brutes versus the Usos from SmackDown, Gable's German suplex, and the NXT main event. Ricky picks Sammy making solo break character on live TV. Everything Sami Zayn does on TV is gold, man. Julian also picks the Seth Riddle promo. Leo picks Wardlow versus Brian Cage from Dynamite. Roman J picks National Scissoring Day and Lashley versus Ali. Aaron picks our Neverita memes on TikTok. Thank you so much to everybody who's been part of the road to 10K, by the way.
It's all Rowan, by the way. It's all Rowan. I don't know how to do that, to do those memes, so it's all Rowan.
Yon, si Rowan, ASH, doing some good work even though he's on academic leave. Ina picks the AEW Dynamite Anniversary, New Japan Royal Quest, and New Japan's 10-bell salute for the late Antonio Inoki and the Stardom 5-star Grand Prix. Si Angelo sobrang dami. So let's just go with the Roxanne and Cora segment from the Grayson Waller effect. Derv picks Naito versus Zack Sabre Jr. from Royal Quest 2. All right, those are the picks. Meron ba sa Kumuro?
Yes, Tanichi, what's up Tanichi, picks National Scissoring Day. So it was a pretty good segment. I enjoyed that segment thoroughly. I'm all in on the Acclaim. And some of you guys, we need to limit your picks to one pick. Show nyo to. Sabi niyo pick.
Gusto nila lahat eh.
Kami, tig-isa lang kami. Minsan dalawa, pero
lahat
isa lang. Kayo,
dami niyo pinipick. Dapat sinabi mo buong linggo admin natin. Ang dami, puta, half ng screen na yun,
Natakpan na akong puta. One last thing on National Scissoring Day. I don't know about you guys, but when I was watching it, pati ako napa-scissor sa sarili ko. It was
like
fun.
They cut out the big scissor.
It's a good gimmick. I like it. Yeah, I like it. Good gimmick.
And the best part is, kapag di ka wrestling fan, di mo magagets. Like, why are these two dudes celebrating National Scissoring Day?
Pag hindi mo alam yung background nila, mo-offend ka eh, diba? But
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
know that, diba? But if you know that one of them is a member of the LGBTQ community, then di ka ma-offend. Diba?
I actually want to know if there are any lesbians in the comments
Or in the
chat.
community that we built.
The listeners. Like, what do you feel about the gay guys? The gay guy. It's
One gay guy, the only one of them.
taking your thing, which is stereotypical, yes, but it's your thing, right? So let us know.
Yeah, hindi namin alam. We are all straight guys on the pod. And people in the comments, if you can help us out, that would be great. So let us know. Hit us up at Wrestling2XPod, at Rose War, at Chino Supersize as we get to our plugs. Chino, what's going on?
Oh, so this week on the pod, I am featuring comics from the Cool Pals Comedy Festival. It's happening October 17 to 22. And this week on the Class Clown, I have Leland Lim. He is an up-and-coming stand-up comedian who is doing a short documentary-style series on his Instagram page called Mahirap Magpatawa. It's at Leland Lim on Instagram, at Chino Supersized for me, and www.thecoolpals.com for all the festival tickets. That is 6 days, 6 full days of stand-up. Meron kaming online shows, in-person shows with all-female lineups, shows with dark comedians, shows with new headliners like myself. Sobrang daming shows, sobrang daming variety of stand-up comedy that you can just really just take your pick. So October 17 to 22, the Cool Pals Comedy Festival, www.coolpals.com for tickets.
All right. How about you, Ro?
Yun, sa October 16, we will have the next Action Novella taping. So if you want to be a part of that, just go to the MWF Facebook page. The link is there to buy it to buy a seat for the taping. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you as well to everyone who came by WW Invasion last Sunday. It was a whole lot of fun. I did not expect to have that much fun, but it was really great. Everyone was great. And please follow us on Ganked as well. Please subscribe to Manila Wrestling Federation. Just go to manilawrestling.com for as low as around 500 something, $540. $10, you get the access to our Gank profile where the past and present episodes of Action Novella are being aired, and where the big events, Republica and Road to Fate, are being released in blocks of time. So a lot of good stuff. If you're a Gank subscriber, you also get into the tapings for free. So a lot of good value there. Please support Philippine wrestling as much as possible, because we're all trying to make it a living here one day, someday. And please follow us on TikTok at Wrestling2XPod. We are now at 10K. Thank you very much to everyone who followed. If you are in this chat, if you follow us on TikTok, thank you so much. Hope we can get that, get that sweet TikTok money soon.
Yeah. Last plug before we get out of here. Go check out Escuela de Leon, Jake De Leon's training sessions. Next one is on October 15 at Origins Athletics in Green Hills, San Juan. 750 pesos for more information. Just go to bit.ly/Escuela de Leon. That's ESCUELADELEON. On that note, thank you very much to everybody who's been joining us for the podcast, for the streams. Thank you to our Discord admins, Admin Jackie and Admin Alan, for all the work that they do behind the scenes, as well as Babyface producer Mike and Joshua and Angel and everyone else from the P&A team for all of the work that they do behind the scenes. And thank you to everybody for joining us for another weekly live stream here on the Wrestling Podcast. Next week, we're reviewing Extreme Rules, and we'll talk about anything that'll happen between tomorrow and our next live stream. So on behalf of Ro Moran and Chino Liao, my name is Stan C, saying take care. Please get your vaccines and boosters if and when you can, and keep your masks on. Wrestling Podcast out. Bye-bye.
Peace.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.